Hello friends, my name is Habib. Today we are going to learn how to create a basic platformer game in Godot. So first, we have to actually install Godot. Open up your browser and search for Godot engine.org/download. Now once you do that, it is going to open the download page for your OS. Since I'm using Linux, it's opened the download page for Linux. I'm going to click on here, and then it's going to start installing. Now I've already installed it, so yeah, I'm not really going to do anything with the file. So anyways, open up your file manager, downloads. Once the file finishes installing, you should see this. Right click and click on extract to extract it. But I've already extracted it, so I don't need to do that. So I'm going to delete. Now once it's done extracting, double click on the thing it creates. Close. Now you see the Godot engine is opened. To make a new project, I click on new project, play, whatever. I'm going to browse, document. I'm going to browse. I'm going to create a folder called Godot. I create a folder called play. And the folder you have to create your project in, it has to be an empty folder. Select current. Create and edit. Close the file manager. Now you see that it is opened. Now there are many places, but in this video we're not going to be using any images. We're going to start using images in a later video. Anyways, I can click on, if you want to create 2D game, click on 2D seed, 3D games or 3D seed. And if you want to create something like a menu, where you can press buttons, then click on user interface. I'm going to click on 2D seed since I want to create a 2D seed. Save. And now we can save the seed. In Godot, seeds are like objects. You can make a seed to be anything. You can make it to be the player character, the enemies, the coins. You can make it to be the level. They can be anything. And the 2D seed is like the 2D seed. If you want to create a level using seeds, then you have to use a 2D or 3D seed, depending on if your game is 2D or 3D. Let's name this level. Make new. No, it's not what I do to do. Now, before you can actually use your 2D seed or run it, you have to save it. Level, save, run. Now you see that, nothing really shows. Well, that is because this is just a blank screen with nothing in it. This is a blank screen with nothing in it. Now, if you want to create a player character, I don't want to create the player character, the seed. This seed is specifically for creating the levels. Right click on this folder, new seed. And this is so that you can create a new seed. And this is going to be the player seed. Load. Now click on write character body 2D. Okay. Now you see that it's created a new character body 2D seed that is called player. A character body 2D basically allows you to create different types of things. Like you can create enemies with it, you can create coins with it, you can create players with it, you can create a lot of things with it. It is specifically meant for creating characters for your game. They don't have to be characters, like they can be coins, They can be coins, enemies, players, NPCs, etc. But yeah, you get the point. So now I'm going to create a Polygon 2D, which will Polygon 2D. If you're familiar with something like Microsoft PowerPoint, you might recognize this because it allows you to draw by clicking on the point, and then you can draw with it. Now you can make the player any shape you want. For me, I'm just going to make the player simple. Just gonna do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Now I've created the shape of my player. And you can also edit the points afterwards if you want to make any changes. The player is a bit too big, so I'm going to scale it down. And if you're wondering what this small thing is, well, that is the point of rotation of the player. If I put it like something like here, right now it doesn't really affect. If I put something like here, then the player is going to start rotating from here. From here, the player rotates from here. Put it here, then the player rotates from here. Let me make this player character very small. He's small enough. Yeah. But the only reason why this is to show to you this Polygon 2D. This looks very ugly, so we're going to replace it. We're going to replace this player character later, since this looks very ugly. We can also give it some color. Let me make my character to be red. This is more like pink, but whatever. Now, if we put this player character to our seed, you see that it doesn't do anything. Run the seed. Oh, it's crashed. Let me open up my file manager. Go to downloads. Reopen it again. We'll click on play. A thing with game engines that game engines sometimes crash. So yeah. Sometimes game engines crash. You have to take note of that. If your game engine crashes, then there's nothing unusual. Now, just because your game engine crashes, that doesn't mean it's a bad game engine. All game engines can crash at some point, depending on how heavy they are. Let me drag this again, save it. Now you see that there's nothing really happening. There's just a player that's staring at us. It can't do anything. Yeah, I'm going to write a collision polygon 2D. Now there are two of these, collision shape and collision polygon. Collision shape, both of them do the same function, but they just do it in different ways. Collision shape 2D, it allows you to choose a shape. Now, you might be wondering, what is a collision shape and what is a collision polygon? A collision, anything collision, it allows the thing to interact. The collision shape 2D allows the player to interact with other seeds. Like, it allows it to interact with this level seed. And collision shape 2Ds and collision polygon 2Ds allow the player to interact with different types of things. Like, allow the player to interact with the enemies, the coins, the level. Yeah. Without this, then the player won't be able to interact with anything. So what's the point of making a game if the player can't really do anything? If you use a collision shape 2D, you have to make sure that it matches the thing. It matches, how your player looks like. Like if you make a collision shape 2D, it has to match it has to match the look of your player. But this isn't very accurate. If you want it to be more accurate, delete this, then we can use a collision polygon 2D, which also allows it to. Collision polygon 2D has the same function as collision shape 2D. It allows it to interact with other things. Now we can instead draw. We can make this to draw this to be the shape of our player. Collision polygon 2D is very useful, especially if you're making very complex shapes. Especially if you want to make collision boxes for very complex shape. Oh, yeah. And also, these collision shapes, they're called collision boxes. Now you see that our collision shape, it is much more accurate. But when you do this, you have to change this. If your build mode is solid, then you have to change it to segment, because if it's solid, then it won't work. Segment means that instead of doing it, like in another way, it's going to each segment, it means that segment means that each segment will be able to collide. See, each segment will be able to collide. So that's what this segment means. And you have to, and if you don't want anything bad to happen to it, your collision shape polygon, then you have to choose segment. I am going to save this. Now you see that if we run it, then nothing happens again. It just floats there. Collision polygons and collision shapes, they don't show when you're running your game, or else it will look very weird. Now, if we want to actually do something with our player, then we have to create a script. Now, before you can use script, you have to have a basic knowledge of programming in general. Yeah, I forgot to tell you that, but you have to have a basic knowledge of programming in general. But this is for beginners, so yeah. Now, because these are templates. Templates are basically just starting code. Now, now. Since we don't want to start with any code, I'm just going to click on empty. Create. Now you're going to see create this extend character body 2D. Now, just leave this alone, since this is useless. No, wait, it's not useless. Leave this alone, because this is the most important part of the code. This is very important. If you delete it, then the script won't work anymore. So yeah, for now, we're just going to leave this alone. Funk. Now, if you want your player to be moving down, func underscore physics process, move and slide, velocity.y plus equals 100. Basically, what this does is that this func physics process, anything inside of this is going to be running, anything inside of this will be running every single frame. So, move and slide allows our player to move in different directions. That's what this does. Now, the player can move in either two ways, using velocity.x or using velocity.y. The velocity.x is the speed of the object on its x-axis, while the velocity.y is the speed on the y-axis. Now, the player's speed on the y-axis is going to be increasing by 100 every frame to give a sense of gravity. I'm going to run the player scene, and you see that the player falls down. Now, yeah, I can use times delta. What delta does is that normally, if you do something like this, the motion, it's not going to be constant. It's going to be, it's not going to be smooth. It's not going to be completely smooth. So if you want to smooth out your motion, then you can write times delta to smooth out your motion. But you should be using it all the time. Now you see that if we write times delta, then you see that this falling, it looks very, very smooth. But if we remove this times delta, now you see that the falling, it looks very rough. But you should be using this all the time, or else, it won't look good. So anyways, Oh no. Now, if we play this level seed, the player will fall. But I want to create an actual level for our game, for the player to move around. So I'm going to create a static body 2D. Unlike kinetic body 2D, which can be used to make a lot of things, like, static body 2D. Wait, no. Static body 2D, it cannot move. It basically is stagnant object. Static body 2D, it never moves. So great for levels. If your levels aren't, moving, then you can use static body 2D. Since static body 2D, it stays in one place all the time. Like, just like I did with the previous one, I would create a polygon 2D and draw a simple level. And now, just like I did before, I'll use a collision polygon 2D to draw the collision boxes. The collision boxes, it allows it to interact with other things. Do this. And also make sure to change it to segment. So anyways, that the player got fall. Let me remove this type delta. So anyways, you see that when the player falls, it just falls through the ground. Solid. There we go. You see that the player can't do anything. The player falls down, and that's the end. So, anyways, we want to be able to make the player to move left and right and jump. And then what we do that, we also want to make coins for our game. We're also going to change the player sprite. Now, go to project and settings, input map, which will allow you to create input for your game. I'm going to name this input R for right, L for left, and J for jump. Now, press this plus button and then press the key you want to use for moving right, which in my case is right. Wait, no, stop it. No, I don't want to do this. Now click on this, then press the key you want to use for moving left, which for me is the left button. And press the key you want to use for jumping, which is the space button. Now, they don't have to be the same as mine, they can be different. Like, this can be D, this can be A, and this can be J. Close, save. And now write if then. If you're familiar with programming languages, you know what this is. If then input does is underscore action underscore pressed L velocity.x minus equals let's say 100. We can move left, but it's very, very fast. It's unnecessarily fast, so I can write times delta again. So yeah, we can move our player character, increase the speed. But there's a bit of a problem. The player character won't stop moving. If you press this just a little, then the player character is going to continue moving forever until it falls off a cliff. And nobody likes it when stuff falls off cliffs. But anyways, before that, there's a much more easier way to create a right and left. For one's sake, in the physics process, right? var rl, which stands for right left, input dot get underscore axis l and r. If you're wondering what this does, is that it creates a variable that if the left key is pressed, then the value of the variable will be -1. If the right key is pressed, then the value of the variable will be 1. And if nothing is pressed, then the value of this variable is going to be 0. The reason why I put it in this physics process is so that it can be updating every frame. But if I don't do that, it's just going to update once, and then it's going to be stagnant. It's going to stay the same if I don't put it in this physics process. And what this does is that it moves it. Changes the player's. This changes the player's speed by -300. It changes the player's speed by -300 every frame. Now, there's also a bit of a problem. What if you want the player's motion to be constant? So just write equals. Equals to means that the player's speed, if you press the L button, the player's speed is going to be 300. Now you see that the motion is constant. Instead of accelerating it just starts moving immediately. This is great if you want the player's motion to be constant, but if you want it to accelerate, it's not so great for you. Now, instead of writing this one, if RL, which means if the value of RL is .0, then velocity.x is equal to 400 times RL times 400. So we're going to multiply the value of RL, which can either be -1, 0, or 1, by 400. Now it can move left and right with relative ease. There's a problem. You're going to be moving left and right forever. You cannot stop. The player just goes wild and falls off a cliff. And yeah, that's not really fun. So I'm going to write else if nothing is pressed. Wait, let me move. Oh no, error. Oh no, the player got stuck again. Else, if the player is not moving, if none of the keys are pressed, velocity.x is equal to lerp f. You might be wondering what lerp f means. Lerp f basically means twee, the current value, which is velocity.x. It is turned to 0, and this weight is the smoothness, is how smooth it is. So if we do this, you see that it is it's in between smooth and not smooth. But if I increase the value to something like 0.5, then you see that the player stops almost immediately, though smoothing. But if I reduce the value, then the player is going to be more slidey and slippery. See that the player takes a long time to stop. Way too long. Now this lerp f, it basically tweets. It tweets the velocity.x, the x velocity. It tweets it from the current x velocity to 0 with a smoothness of 0.08. Now I'm going to write if input dot is action pressed, that is underscore action underscore pressed, j dead velocity dot y minus equals 600. I mean velocity dot y minus equals 600. I'm going to increase the falling speed since it's too slow. Now you see that if I press the J button, I mean the space button, since the then the player is going to fly. But let me severely reduce this. This is a bit too much. Now you see that the player can basically just fly. Oh, the player is stuck again. This is too annoying. So I'm going to change this collision polygon to D. So I'm going to change it's about time that I change the player. The player keeps getting stuck in different types of things. Now, search for meshes that's 2D. I could create a new quad mesh, which is basically just a square. Increase this quad mesh's size. And now remove the polygon 2D. Now let me set the point of rotation to the center by moving this to the center. We did both of them. And now I'm going to make this go to visibility. And make this to be and you can make this any color you want. I'm going to make this to be a sort of bright red color. Since bright red is a cool color, everybody knows that. And now I'm going to search for collision shape 2D. Rectangle shape, and then I'm going to make this to be the size of my player. Now this is much more stable than using collision polygons 2D, so you won't be getting stuck in the wall all the time. No, I forgot that there's a problem that we can just fly. I mean, we don't want to make the player to have a jetpack, do we? So I'm going to write if action _ just pressed, which means if the action is pressed, it's not going to, if the action is held, then it is not going to account for if the action is held. Is action just pressed? It only cares if the action is pressed. If it's held, then nothing will happen. And then there's also an alternative. Inputs.is _ action _ pressed. Which means that it's going to account for the action. It's going to register the action if it is either pressed. If it's pressed or held, then it's going to register for the action. But is _ action _ just pressed, it only registers the action if it is pressed. Now if we reload this, you see the player can jump. But the player, he can also jump in the air, which yeah. This would be great if you wanted to make a Flappy Bird clone, but yeah, no. And so and is _ on floor, which means if the J key is pressed and the player is on the floor, then it is going to account for it. So you see that we cannot jump. So you see we cannot jump in the sky again, as if we're using a jetpack. I should probably say another thing. High jump, low jump, high jump. Stop spazzing out on the wall. What did the wall do to you? I told you to stop. Anyways, that is it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. And also, wait, before I end this video, in the next part of this video, we're going to be making enemies and collectibles for our game. So, anyways, that is the end of today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel, ObaCode. Bye!